Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for what is going to be a wild and fun chat with educator and author Noa Daniel. My name is Melody McAllister, and if this is your first time joining us tonight, or you join us every chance you get, I want to thank you. You can catch this live broadcast every Wednesday from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and you can catch the replay on these same channels. I want to especially thank Alice Keeler for giving us her platform for these broadcasts. Tonight, Noa Daniel will be discussing her book, Strum and the Wild Turkeys. Reading this book with my family gave us many social emotional talking points. What resonated with me as an adult and the differences in each of my children was surprising but pretty cool. This book is one you will want to have for your personal and classroom library. You can read it many times and choose different themes to delve deeper into while also enjoying the gorgeous illustrations. Noa, congratulations on your new children's book. You have been all over social media and even your local news, and even NBA Mavs players have read your book. You've been on an amazing adventure so far. How are you tonight, and can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I'm feeling pretty fantastic, actually. Thank you so much. My background is education, education, education. This is my 25th year as a classroom teacher. I started my consulting practice 4 years ago. So I teach part of the time, and I build outside the blocks in and outside the classroom. And I'm the co-founder and executive director of The Mentory, as well as an author. And my newest book is called Strum and the Wild Turkeys, which you already knew.
Yes, and I love it. I love it. And this is your third children's book.
It is. But it's really so special. It doesn't just feel like mine. It feels like mine and Alana's and the whole team. It's a really special experience.
Well, I love that, and I am going to definitely check out your other books. But before we go into it, what is the story behind Strum and the Wild Turkeys? Because you don't often find peacocks and turkeys together.
Well, that's really the brilliance of the brothers who got in touch with me and asked me to write this book. Avi and Barry Glenna have a ranch in northern Ontario, well, northeastern Ontario. And this actually happened. They had a peacock in an enclosure, and it escaped. And they were like, well, where is this peacock? And this ongoing mystery went on until they caught it a year later on a trail cam looking like it was leading a pack of wild turkeys. And they were like, this is a story. So they called me and they said, hey, do you want to write a story? And I guess the rest is history, because here it is.
I love that so much. I wish I could be there to see that. I want to share with you. So we read it. So here's what I did with my own kids. I let them read it individually. And I read it to my youngest because he's 3 and he can't read. And then I read it together. We read it together as a family. And I realized like things that, we think differently and deeper than kids do a lot of the time. Some kids are super deeper thinking. But I was surprised at what really resonated with them. And I want to share what my son said. He really liked how Strum was able to be alone in this story. Like there was this point at which he decided, he wanted to talk about being lonely or not. And that really struck a chord with my son, who is very people-y and likes to be with people. But he also sees, we were talking about the differences of reflection. And he's like, well, what is reflection? And so we were talking about that. And so I wanted to, just as a theme, I wanted to share that with you. And also, I wanted to reveal to you what my amazing and talented 6th grader, this is what she did. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, oh I don't know like if I'm doing it well. Yes, and she just picked out her favorite page, and it says, don't be afraid to rock who you are.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. It's so beautiful. But I'm so glad that you were inspired to do that. Look at her color choices. Alana has to see the vibrance of her colors. Oh my gosh. Is that marker?
Well, she is an artist. Yes, yeah. It's marker. She drew it with pencil, and she just looked at her favorite illustration at the end when Strum, was rocking out with his friends, and she just started, writing it. And there's so many wonderful themes in here. And I'll let you talk about that. When you were writing this and, after the brothers sent you that, what was the theme that you really, really, really wanted to play hard? Because there's several themes in here, I think.
Yeah, there are definitely several themes. And that was the really interesting part, is when I was doing research to try to find a common connection between peacocks and wild turkeys, it was actually music that got me thinking. And when I first looked into peacocks, that they made sounds not just with their throats, but with their with their plume, and it's actually fantastic. It's a mesmerizing thing to watch. And now people are sending me these kinds of videos about peacocks all the time. They're so cool. But wild turkeys have sounds that became the names of the band members. And as soon as I started reading about them, I started imagining these characters. I can't even explain. It came to me like poetry. And then there were parts of the story I wasn't sure, like, well, what was going to be the problem? And I thought, well, what would happen if a peacock who looks so proud and is known for having this majestic plume didn't have one? And how would they feel? And what would it be like to be part of a peacock crew? And if they were feeling left out, what does feeling left out versus feeling lonely feel like? Or what does being alone, kind of like what your son was talking about? And as I started to write, more and more of the themes started to come. And then when I found kind of the flow of the story, the beginning, middle, and end, I was so excited to write the rest. And the inspiration for the name of the character came almost after I had the whole story together. I was telling my friend about it, and I was saying, because I called him Pete the Peacock. That's just what I do. I start with alliteration. And I was telling her that Pete strummed his plume instead of like kind of like a guitar, instead of, you know, braying it, because he was different than the other peacocks. And I was like, oh my God, his name is Strum. And I pulled my car over the side of the road. And that really completed the story. You know, like once you evolve that character and you know what is endearing about them, you know how you want to tell their story. And I think what's so interesting about hearing, you know, from your children and from so many people of all ages about the impact of the book is everybody connects with Strum. Every single person has been Strum or has felt like Strum and longs to feel like Strum kind of throughout the evolution of this story. And that's where some of the great themes of belonging come from, is seeing what happens to him and how he goes through this. And one of the coolest things is he doesn't change anything about himself to achieve his sense of belonging. He changes his perception. And, you know, Wayne Dyer talks about if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's that idea. It's that we have so much in ourselves that we can do to help ourselves, to shift our perspectives, and to change how we understand our scenarios. So that's what I believe is some of the theme anyway in this story. I'm so excited.
Oh gosh, I love
her. Woo!
Yes, I love that. That is so inspiring. I mean, just and I feel you, like when you get inspired, and we were talking a little bit about this before we went live, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but like you and I both write and we get excited when we're inspired. Like that's when we start writing. Other people like write every day, but we have that in common. And I can be there with you right in my mind thinking, oh my gosh, Strum. And that is such a cute name. And who knows, maybe it's going to be, you know, the #1 name for babies.
Well, maybe not babies.
Adorable.
Certainly like somebody you want to hang out with. Like, it's funny, we made these Strum on the runs thinking about kids being in isolation and what we could do. And I hang out with Strum all the time, and like we talk eye to eye, and he inspires me, and I feel like he's talking to me in his expression. Like one of the things, and you'll get to see him in the story, but Alana worked on Strum for a really long time. And, you know, when you have a vision in your mind and you're working with somebody so uber talented like Alana, who's willing to go in so many different directions to help you actualize a vision. And I got to weigh in through this process to say, no, that's not Strum. And the second she sent this, I was like, oh my God, that is Strum. Do you know that feeling? Like she nailed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share your website because people can actually print that out. Okay, I'm going to share it really quick, and I might have to move the banner. Okay, and so so people can actually go to is it for grown-ups or for kids where we can get
in the for kids section so that kids can navigate some of this on their own. There is Strum. You can print him, but if you can't print him, write to us. We'll send him to you because I know that it's a good thing to have, especially when you're in isolation like we were in Ontario up until the other day. But at any point, you know, there used to be a flat Stanley you would take out in the world. This is not for the world. It's for you in whatever world you're in. So take Strum with you, take a picture, send it to us. That would be amazing. But if you scroll down, Alana was so generous to give us some of the black lines to send away as coloring pages. This map is a real place. This is the ranch kind of adapted with a little bit of, poetic license in terms of the names and the structures, but it's essentially a real place. And then I threw together a crossword puzzle because why not? I could. And then I actually made, imagined a whole bunch of students hanging out in the summer or whenever, just deciding to self-direct a book club, because who knows? But it's here for you if you need it. Yeah. And this is
I love that. And then
oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say the family jam. I love that.
Yeah, this is a wonderful company called the Jam Lab, and you can go learn an instrument through them, but they have a family jam, and it gave me an idea. I wanted to use this. I called them to see if it was okay to put it on the site, because this is a culmination of their year of learning together and teaching how to use instruments and having whole families playing together. Like, that's a vibe. So I wanted to share that out and kind of invite families to play together. And
yes,
these are the OG Strum and the Wild Turkeys, because this is what was sent to me, and this is what I created the story from. And I'm so proud. I look at this and I think, this is an incredible catalyst. I could not have come up with this story on my own, but being given this, and I use photographs in my classroom all the time, and I advocate for them as points of inquiry and really great starters for things. And this was a starter for me to write this story.
Gosh, I love that so much. And I'm just going to say, as a teacher and a mom, you're putting into practice everything that we want kids to do. And, you took a risk, looking at the pictures, and you went wild on this story. I mean, this is fantastic. And like, you're showing all of your students that this is something that's possible. And I'm sure that you tell your students, you don't have to wait till you grow up to make a story. Like, this, you own what you want. But I love this. Is incredible. And I'm going to flash this again on the screen. You can find all of these resources at strumandthewildturkeys.com. And this is the section for kids. But there's also, and I'm going to drop it a little bit later, activities that you as an adult can do before, during, and after. But thank you. Yes, this was, and I'm going to take the screen down. But that is so cool. I am really, really impressed. It makes me want to also update my own website to be a little bit better, because you got a legit tight website.
Well, that was the kindness of my friend Brandon. We had the site, and he had a little bit of time. He was between gigs essentially, and he worked with me. I wrote all the copy, but it was him that he would say, this needs to look like this, and he made it so beautiful.
Yeah, well, good teamwork. I love it. Okay, so now is the time where you're going to share a little bit about your book, and I'm going to make you big, so bear with me. And okay, here we go. You're gonna get big. I'm wearing my
Wild Turkeys t-shirt, by the way. All designed by Alana, our illustrator.
Nice, nice. I love it, Alana. If you're listening to this, you did an amazing job. Your illustrations are gorgeous. So yes, wonderful. And while you're reading, Noah, I'm going to be dropping links for your website and the different resources. But yes, go ahead. Let's begin.
Thank you. Well, first of all, you can spend time. I mean, I can spend so much time just talking about the cover and all the things that it is and that it does. But it really says so much about the book. And I'm going to read the book up until this page to kind of leave y'all hanging for the rest of it. But as I had mentioned, we put the map in here because it's a real place. And as you'll see in the grown-up section, there's things you can do with it for social studies or talking about what happens in a map. And, the brothers contributed this piece saying life's a journey, not a destination. But if you find yourself gathered in a beautiful space surrounded by people who build you up, you have already arrived. And it so perfectly encapsulated the vision of the story. So I'm going to read to you and tell you that all of these animals actually exist on the farm, on the ranch. And when we went there to draw them, it was really important to be able to bring real aspects of nature into this story. So I'll just stop talking about the amazing pictures, and I'm going to read it to you. The animals gathered in their usual place to check in with each other after a long, cold winter. The raccoons stood on the stage commenting as each forest animal joined the clearing. Rooster, standing like a guard at the gate, counted the mice, the deer, the rabbits, the fox families, the chipmunks, the mama bear and her 2 new cubs, and the rest of the creatures that were coming together to mark the first day of spring. There had been a family of peacocks that joined the event each year, but this year they were nowhere to be found. You kind of see that wisp of flashback happening in the images. Everyone looked forward to their yearly parade of plumes. Their majestic feathers were a colorful addition to the spring celebrations. Even Strum's plume, though smaller and less colorful, was something to look forward to for everyone. That was everyone except Strum. And this is where, when you read to kids, which is one of my favorite parts, they say, oh, poor Strum. And we can talk a lot about emotions and how we carry ourselves in our emotions. Strum worried about his feathers. They were green, blue, and bronze, like his brothers, but they weren't quite as full or as dazzling. Even though his sister's plumes were less colorful, like all female peacocks, or peahens as they're called. They fanned their feathers with such fantastic style, but their plain plumes still outshine Strum's. His siblings wore their feathers with pride, while Strum wore his across his body to hide his less than full fan. Sorry, guys, I'm not great at showing the pictures while I'm doing this yet. Okay, I'll get better at this. Strum felt different than his siblings. Every aspect of their lives left him feeling like he wasn't really part of the party of peacocks that were his family. Strum's brother and sisters made their peacock sound by shaking their feathers in perfect harmony. Strum didn't like to shake the tail feathers he tried to hide. Instead, he strummed them like a guitar, which is how he got his name. His siblings laughed at how he played and made fun of every sound he made. But Strum called it his music and played to his own beat in spite of their teasing. We gotta play to our own beat. His sister reminded Strum that like a peacock's plume is a source of pride, with like feathers flowing in pattern perfection. She added, giggling, a peacock without a beautiful plume is like a queen without a crown, or a tiger without stripes. Strum found comfort in picturing a beautiful, stripeless white tiger and a queen on whom he had rarely seen a crown. One day, the peacocks decided it was time to go and find mates and get married. They set off on a long journey. They didn't even ask Strum if he wanted to come. Being alone can sometimes feel amazing, like everything is possible. Other times it can feel really lonely. Strum wasn't sure if he felt more alone with his brother and sisters or without them. Strum sat on his perch, playing his plume and singing his heart out to the moon. This is where I ask kids what style of music I'm going to do. So why don't you throw this down? What style of music do you want me to sing this song to, Melody?
I don't know if it's possible, but maybe 80s rock.
Okay, gotta get my hair ready. Let's see. Okay. Different is good. Be yourself. You don't have to look like, talk like, walk like anybody else. I don't know if that's so 80s, but I hope you got that vibe. Anyway.
You did amazing. I loved it.
I'm freestyling here. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story because I want you to find this story on your own and I want you to be able to go on this journey, but hopefully you can infer that good things are afoot.
Oh, I love that. That was great. And I don't know if you saw Alice Aspinall's comment, but she said it is a beautiful story. Yes, that was a very beautiful, beautiful story so far. Now, I totally recommend this book, and not just because Noah is hysterical, but because this is a great book, and I was surprised at the direction that it took. Oh, we got some love coming in. Kay, she's also an author. She says, great job. Thanks for watching, Kay. Yes. Oh, and we got more. She loved it. Yay. And believe me, there's more to this story. Like, you got to get this book. It is great. And I have all of my books. I dropped a comment. You can go to my Amazon shop and I'm going to put, we are EduMatch sisters. So I will drop the link on EduMatch. Yes. And why did you choose to go through EduMatch? I'm just curious.
Well, originally, Abby and Barry wanted to self-publish. And I didn't know it was going to be good when I wrote it. So afterwards, I was like, guys, this needs to be in a classroom. Is it okay if I send it to EduMatch. And I had a relationship with Sarah. Sarah and Mandy had both been on my show, the Personal Playlist podcast, and I've respected her for so long. And I wasn't going to, chase everywhere, but I knew it needed to be in education somehow. So when Sarah said yes, I was like, yes, EduMatch. And the whole, as I've said before, that for us, by us part of EduMatch makes me so proud to be part of the EduMatch family with other authors who are educators who understand that we have a very different profession that not everybody gets, but we speak educator. And EduSpeak is a language and a culture unto itself. And that's why I had to write all the different ways to use the book, because I could. So why wouldn't I?
Yeah, I love that. And Kay says beautiful illustrations. Totally agree. And so I have a lot of people, we talked about this a little bit. I have a lot of people ask me about the different things about writing. And what was your favorite part of writing? And what was your most challenging experience when you were writing this book or any of your books? Because this is not your first children's book.
Again, back to that whole point of inspiration. And I've written the second book of this because I see it as a series, but inspiration is so powerful to me. And it's something that how I started creating projects for kids, I would just get inspired and I would do it. And I didn't know I was doing anything special. I would just do it. So I think that, when you give yourself permission to do you, to be you, and to let the free flow of ideas come, that's to me a really powerful source. So I'm not, one of those amazing writers that I admire so much who have rigor and who have practice. I write all the time. I write for my students and I blog and I've done a lot of ghost writing, and I'm actually really trying to become a better writer, and I'm doing a lot of reading about writing because I've always written things that rhyme. And it's really interesting to write a story as a story and have character development, and writing the backstory of every one of these characters was a really powerful thing for me. And it's interesting, Kiki is a non-binary character. And when somebody asked me, how did that happen? I'm like, I don't know. That's what they look like in my mind. I didn't try to do any of this. When Yelp, spoke through her instruments, I just decided that in my mind, this was who she was. And I mean, as soon as Avi and Barry asked me to write this, I've known them. They are the first cousins of my first cousins. So I've known them all their lives. And their grandfather is who is channeled through Gobble. And, Zadie Mendel was a real force and a really powerful person. And I wanted to have his mandolin that he brought from the old country in this story. So that each of the characters have something. And Cut is as 80s as I am. When Alana designed, the lettering for the shirt, I mean, Cut has a Guns N' Roses kind of vibe in him.
Yes.
Dave Grohl and Neil Peart were part of what channeled him. As you learn more about his personality, he's got a rock and roll soul. And so I'm kind of an 80s girl, even though I was born in the 70s, but that happens.
I love that. I must have felt it because I thought, what am I going to do with my hair today? I'm going to make it big. I'm going to make it wild. I'm going to wear my 80s earrings. I seriously, I was channeling that through. So I totally respect it. And you didn't even tell me what genre to pick before you sang. So that was just you did amazing. So good for you.
Thank you. But I think I want to talk about the most challenging experience because, one of the things about being an educator is being a learner. And I think the hardest part, and I love this part about EduMatch, was sending it to the focus group. All of a sudden it went out of your control and you're actually going to hear back from the people and you want to make an impact and you want to say beautiful things. But some of the feedback, which was really good, was hard to read. You're so invested and you want it to be exactly what it is. And I went through almost like a conundrum. Can I do this and it still be mine if I evolve? And I know it's still my story. I know it doesn't totally make sense, but I kept thinking about my students and when I give them feedback and I want them to enact next steps. I'm like, dude, I've given you the map. Just go on the map. But there is an emotional component to change and to what happens when you're invested in something and somebody says, not exactly. So I really marinated on that part of the editing process. And it was hard and good. Like that was something to lean into and something to really learn from. And the book is better as a result.
I love that you said that, because I actually feel that too. I felt that with the I'm sorry story. And then I've also, I've written some other things. And I think that exactly what you said, it was hard, but it was good. And you had to just go into it. I had to marinate a little bit too. I got advice from another author who he's amazing. He's not with EduMatch, but he said, like, don't even look at it for 14 days. Like, just let it go and then come back to it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, it was hard not to think about, but you're right. Everything that you said, it's so painful to read some of that, but not everybody's in your mind. You're trying to get to the greatest audience. So I love that you shared that. And I don't know that I ever got feedback until we did our focus group. I don't know that I've ever had feedback like that, but I think it truly makes you a better writer, to have, some hard feedback.
Well, it's funny, you teach about it and the audience imperatives and who you're writing to and understanding. And when we got to the stage where we were like, well, what grade level, what age level is this book? And I was right in the sense that I'm like, it's for everybody, but you can't put that on a children's book. You have to say something. So we said, age 4 to 6. But as I hear more and more, like, I know somebody that's going through chemo right now who keeps it next to her bed and she reads it every single day. And a friend of mine, Ramona Maharg, read it to her class who are congregated ed students, developmental, like up to age 21. And they're like, oh, I'm Strum, I'm in this story. And just seeing all the different places that you can have this book, it's such an interesting part about understanding audience and understanding impact. And often, when we reduce things to their simplest form, it's important for communication, but it really does undermine the truth of something. And it happens with a story like this. Like I can say, oh, it's for age 4 to 6, but it's for all of us. It's for me. And it grows with your family, because you can start just by looking at the pretty pictures. They're pretty fantastic all by themselves. And they certainly tell a story, but looking at the language and being able to work with ELLs to be able to develop their ability to understand words and to make connections and look at emotion. There's so many different entry points in this book. And I feel really proud that I'm learning how to become better at being mindful of the impact on my audience and not just what I want to say.
Oh, I love that so much. And I agree. I'm surprised. Like, okay, so when I read it to all of my kids, and I have 5 kids, I'll tell you the story really quick. So my youngest is 3 and my oldest is 12, and they sat at the table and listened. Now, my 3 oldest had already read it by themselves. And what my son had read it to my 2 youngest, but I wanted to read it with them because I wanted to have discussion points. And then, the neighbors, so we're 4 hours behind y'all. So we're still like in the early day. So one of the little girls that my 6-year-old plays with, her best friend, came over and joined us. So there were 6 kids at my table. And I was having the best time reading it because, of course, I already knew that I loved the story. And I feel like I'm Strum, just to be honest with you. And the little girl, our little neighbor friend, she's so sweet. Her name is Juliet, but she was just like, it was her first time. Everybody else had already seen the book, but it was her first time. And she was just like this into the book. And she was talking about Strum. And, she'll be in kindergarten this coming year. And she could really see Strum's emotions. And that really struck her, with Strum's emotions. And then, of course, introducing the characters. They loved the characters. And again, I just want to show this. So we're talking about age group. It does really resonate with everybody. My 6th grader daughter she was looking at the book, and she's an artist, I'm not, but this is what she says, don't be afraid to rock who you are. And I didn't even realize that you had a non-binary character. I think that's amazing. I'm just like in awe of you right now, Noah. So kudos to you.
Well,
I really hope
about the next book is I get to actually like reveal the character. Well, I got to get through this book, not through, but like share this book and love it. So I get to write the second one, please.
Oh, I'm so glad you're going to do that. Like, I love it. I will be all over it when you do. I can't believe it. We're like at the end of our book chat. I'm going to put Noah's, let me get over here. I'm going to put all her socials on here again. And of course it's on the bottom of the screen. And if you go to, I am Noa Daniel, that's your Twitter and your Instagram, correct?
Correct.
And then also you can find her at Strum and it says TWT, and that's Twitter and Instagram as well. I'm pretty sure. Great. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. Ooh, we have another comment. Don't be afraid to rock who you are. Yes, it is, Kay. It's so powerful. Yes, yes.
Thank you,
But I
Kay.
always, yeah. I always ask my guests before we end the broadcast, are there any last words that you would like to share before we say goodbye?
I'm grateful that you loved it and embraced it. I love that you shared what your kids were doing. I love that it inspired them. And I love being a part of the EduMatch family, and I feel connected to you even before we got to meet for the first time. So thank you for having me. Thank you for loving Strum, and I hope that we'll get to talk again soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And everybody, we'll see you again next week. And remember that if you love a book, leave a review. And we'll see you again next week. Bye, everybody.